Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Divisional Round recap episode for the Divisional Round playoff games of the 2026 playoff series. So jumping straight into those games, we had three amazing games, and one game that really probably couldn't even have been played and you would have guessed the outcome, but nonetheless it was played and the outcome was pretty well for the most part what everyone expected. Not everybody, of course, but a decent consensus at the very least. So we will go straight into the first AFC game, which was played on Saturday afternoon. We had the AFC matchup of the 6 seed Buffalo Bills heading to Denver to take on the 1 seed Broncos. And the Broncos pick up an overtime win by a score of 33-30. And man, was this amazing game. I mean, really, it shouldn't have been this close. The Bills should have really ran away with it on paper. Everywhere except for that, I was going to say little caveat, but it's much more of a big caveat of 5 total turnovers by Josh Allen and that Bills offense, which when you're turning the ball over, and I think at least 2, if not 3 of those happened in Buffalo territory. So the Bills, or the Broncos rather, were getting the ball already in scoring position. And when that happens, I just don't know what else you can expect. The fact that they did that and pushed it to overtime is overall pretty impressive and just shows how good of a team the Bills were this year. But nonetheless, they were not able to pull out a win in this one. And if you watch this game, the whole time, I was just thinking that it just came down to fundamentals. The Bills were not fundamentally sound. Of course, mentioning those 5 turnovers is a big part of that. But even outside of the turnovers, they just didn't. They were fully relying on the big plays and Josh Allen playing hero ball and doing these crazy things. They had no true, consistent, long drives, and that is all the Broncos had. The Broncos had multiple drives that were 7 to 8 minutes, took it from inside their own 20, inside their own 30, all the way into the Bills' red zone. I think 1 or 2 of those became field goals and didn't actually convert to touchdowns, but nonetheless, a couple of them did convert to touchdowns. They took so much time off the clock with those. They were just in such control of this game, even though it was so close and the Bills were putting up, I should say, such a good fight. The Broncos just looked fundamentally sound, and the Bills looked like they were constantly having to make up ground. And at the end of the day, that's really what it was. And even though they had a lead at one point, the Broncos were able to tie it and bring it into overtime. And then after another interception by Josh Allen, if I'm not mistaken, the Broncos got the ball and were able to kick that game-winning field goal.
Yep, and I thought the Bills were a team and a man on a mission, and boy, Josh Allen did everything he could to do that and not do that at the same time.
He was their hero and their villain.
He kind of shot themselves in the foot and still tried to play hero ball. But the killer one was the last interception, and it really was, was it a catch? That was the simultaneous catch, interception. We've learned from Seattle 2012 that a catch and a tie goes to the runner or goes to the offensive player, as they say. So it should have probably been a catch. You can see it bobble a little bit, so maybe he doesn't have full possession, and I guess that's what they went with.
I'm a big proponent of you have to control the ball through the ground, and I think if you would have landed like that and the corner wasn't there and the ball just popped up and hit the ground, let's be honest, it would have been called incomplete. So I don't know how you can say that the corner being there and pulling it out of his arms would be anything different other than incomplete, or in that case scenario, an interception. But I do definitely see where the debate comes from.
So, I mean, they call an interception on the field, and then there's a little bit of some witchcraft, some trickery at bay here, because the game that follows the Bills-Broncos, Seahawks-49ers, was supposed to start at 7 o'clock. This game here goes into overtime, and they pushed the kickoff back to 7:20. It just happened that those last 2 pass interference penalties to lead to the game-winning field goal caused the game to end at exactly 7:19.
I didn't.
So maybe the NFL made a call down to the refs. I don't know. Maybe I'm starting something here that isn't actually there. But I just think it's a little bit fishy that they pushed the kickoff back once, and then suddenly the game was over about simultaneously right at kickoff of Seahawks 49ers.
I don't know. I think they were just pass interference.
Maybe it was just plain pass interference.
I think even Tre'Davious White knew it was a pass interference. He was so pissed on the sideline, and I think it wasn't like I got screwed. It was I screwed us.
Yeah, the second one I agree with. The first one I don't.
I can't place the first
one. The first one was, I think, on the one on White.
Oh, that was the...
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one I'm thinking of then. I don't know. I'll have to go back and review one of them. But for some reason, I'm totally blanking on that second one. But I do remember the one on White. And I was like, damn, that sucks. But I did agree with it. I did agree with it overall. But nonetheless, a great game to watch and a very consequential game more than anything. Because shortly after that game, I think the next day, the Bills actually ended up firing their head coach, Sean McDermott. Or sorry, that was just today. We're recording this on Monday.
Yeah.
So 2 days later, the Bills fired their coach, Sean McDermott. And much more heartbreaking for the Broncos, it was confirmed very shortly after the game, within the hour, that Bo Nix had fractured his ankle and will not play another game this postseason. So heartbreaking for Bo Nix, heartbreaking for the Broncos, and really even heartbreaking for the Bills, because now they lost and they're out of the playoffs, and the Broncos are likely going to move on and just get stomped by the Patriots. So really just heartbreaking every single step of the way. So hope for a quick recovery for Bo Nix and at least the Broncos to put up a fight come next week in the AFC Championship.
Their defense will, but I just think that they're not going to put up anything offensively now.
I completely agree, but we will talk more about that in the next episode when we have our predictions. Moving on to the second game of the Saturday slate for the divisional round, we have the 6-1 NFC matchup with the 6-seed 49ers heading to Seattle to take on the 1-seed Seahawks. And this one was the very predictable, very not great game one I talked about, with the 49ers falling by a score of 6-41.
And this one was one of those ones where it might have been over after the first touchdown because they had an electric 95-yard kick return by Rashid Shaheed, who has been a dynamic pickup for the Seahawks since the trade deadline. I don't know what all they gave up for them. I can't remember. A couple of mid-rounders, but it was definitely worth it for the Seahawks team because not only is he a great kick and punt returner, but he can play receiver as well. And I think he even had a few receiving yards. I can't remember if he had a receiving touchdown. There were so many. I didn't really watch all the games. There were so many for the Seahawks. But the 49ers, I thought that they could, it's hard to out-coach the other team when they outscore you.
Yeah.
And I didn't take that into consideration. But they got outscored heavily. They still did a nice coaching job staying alive in it through the first half, but at that second half, the Seahawks just kept putting in touchdowns, and Kenneth Walker had 3 of them, which tied a postseason Seahawks record, tied with Sean Alexander from their Super Bowl 40 run with Sean Alexander.
Yeah, was
that was against Jerome Bettis?
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll see if there's anything similar to that Super Bowl run, if they can put one together like that again. But otherwise, it was just a dominant win by the Seahawks, and there was a little bit of bad news for the Seahawks as Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL. So it will be Kenneth Walker the whole way, and if he can keep scoring 3 touchdowns a game, I think they'll do all right for this next game.
Yeah, definitely. They'll need Kenneth Walker to keep putting up those big performances, and he's a home run guy. I'm a huge Kenneth Walker fan. I truly think he can, even without that duo of Zach Charbonnet being out there, because they also have George Halani, who played very good as a backup throughout this year when one of the two were hurt. So he'll still be a nice little change of pace back to have out there with Kenneth Walker. But I won't talk too much about this game because I didn't watch it. I was actually at a concert Saturday night, So funny story, I was waiting to go into the concert and I watched one play from that entire game, and it was the opening play, which was a 95-yard touchdown return. And I was like, okay, well, that's about how I expected it to start. And then I just slowly tracked the game on my phone, and it was like the 49ers got punched in the face and just never really got back up and never really put up another fight in that game. It just kept stacking on them. But nonetheless, considering all the injuries they had and all the changes they had on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball, really a hell of a season by the 49ers. I thought they had a chance in that game to kind of shock the world, but I would have put a lot more money on that, the true outcome happening, than the Niners pulling off a win.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we're going to move from the Saturday games to the Sunday games in our two different 5 versus 2 seed matchups. Starting with the Sunday afternoon game of the 5-seed Houston Texans heading to New England to take on the 2-seed Patriots on the AFC side of things. And the Patriots pick up a home win by a score of 28-16. And man, did CJ Stroud look rough in this game. Just as Josh Allen put up 5 total turnovers with those fumbles, I don't think CJ Stroud had a fumble, but he did put up 4 total interceptions, one of those interceptions being a pick 6. Right when it looked like the Texans were finally starting to get some life is when that pick 6 happened and just absolutely changed the pace. I mean, it was a really close game. I thought that the Patriots, especially considering the weather, going against a Texas team that plays in a dome, the Patriots had every advantage of that rain, sleet, snow, however you want to call it. And the Texans stayed in it for a good chunk of time. And not only did they stay in it, the Texans controlled that game almost for a good chunk of time. But then that pick 6 was when everything fell off the wagon for them. It put the Patriots back up by a score of 14-10 at that point, and they just never really slowed back down. The Texans got those 2 decent drives that turned into field goals, but the Patriots put up just great time-eating drives that turned into touchdowns. I know Drake May had a couple of turnovers, including a fumble with that wet, but even those turnovers, CJ Stroud would just throw the ball right back to him. So they were very inconsequential turnovers when you look back on it and kind of know the outcome of things. They're hindsight's 2020 type thing. So Patriots just look really good right now, which is funny because on paper, that team is really nothing special. It's just they're so well coached with those coordinators and Mike Vrabel playing that leader role. You can tell that Mike Vrabel cares so much about those players and how much those players want to play and fight for him, which is all the makings of a surprising team to make a championship run, which I truly think the Patriots can do here, especially considering, as aforementioned, with the Broncos injury, they have not an easy game per se, but an easier path to the Super Bowl. I very much think we see him in the Super Bowl. But looking back on this game, they just played so well. And again, kudos to the losing team. The Texans played much better than I expected, but we're just really no match. I think 28-16 is a closer score than that game really looked, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Texans, they put up a good fight, but it just wasn't enough in the end. Drake May put a dagger in them in the fourth quarter with a 40-plus yard pass that was just
that throw and catch.
Just
the catch more than the throw, but the throw and catch.
The catch beautiful. Was a one-handed diving catch by Kayshon Boutte, and the throw was just over the corner. It was one of those throws where it was either his guy was going to get it or no one was going to get it. So
and Boutte got it.
And Boutte got it. He got it good. He made a nice catch. It was his first career one-handed catch. I noticed that little stat line. I didn't know they recorded one-handed catches. But yeah, apparently it was his first career one.
So a hell of a one to start on.
Yeah, it was a nice one, and nice timing for it. So the Texans, they just, like you said, they just kept throwing the ball away and throwing the ball to the other team. And then the other team would fumble it. And then they'd throw the ball to the other team, and then the other team would fumble it. And this happened about 3 or 4 times throughout this game because there was 5 fumbles by the Patriots and 4 interceptions by the Texans offensively each. Not all the fumbles were lost by the Patriots, so that was the key there. But they did drop the ball a lot, which is a little bit concerning going against that Denver defense next week. But as far as this game goes, it was just an all-out coaching by Mike Vrabel and his coordinators over D'Amico Ryans, who's just not quite ready yet. And it's just funny because CJ Stroud has regressed a little bit each year, and each step he's regressed because I don't know why, if it's just the next level seems to spook him a little bit or what it is. But I just remember all those memes of him doing the handshake to Caleb Williams. Have you seen that picture of him? It was like he said you're gonna be great or something to him, and it's like, aren't we the same age or something?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
because Caleb, yeah,
yeah. So, and then I remember they were all comparing Love to CJ Stroud, and Love might get some MVP votes this year around. I don't think he'll win it by any means, but he might at least be mentioned in the race. But the Patriots, it was just too much for the Texans, and Drake May is proving to be that he is the second coming of Dan Marino.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely got to keep an eye on those fumbles because they had a couple against the Chargers, but I think more than anything, the fumbles were just the weather and the wet. Mm-hmm. And I think that one thing I really noticed about Drake May, and maybe it's just because I'm a huge Drake May fanboy, I'll admit it. I've loved him since his rookie year. But maybe it's just because I'm a huge Drake May fan. But you could tell how much that wet affected CJ Stroud passing, how he was throwing the ball behind, how the ball just didn't have as much oomph on it on kind of those tighter window throws. If you watch Drake May throw the ball, it didn't even look like you'd guess that the weather was perfect or that they were in a dome. I mean, he looked unaffected by it when it came to the throwing side of things. The fumbling side of things, the holding on to it, there's some argument there. But the throwing side, he just looked absolutely pristine, which was so cool to see. Mm-hmm. And then finally, we have our Sunday night game and the NFC matchup with the 5-seed Los Angeles Rams heading to Chicago to take on the 2-seed Bears and picking up a huge road win in overtime by a score of 20-17.
The Bears almost did it again. They tried to do it again. They came down and they tied it. They were down 2 minutes less than the fourth quarter, and they tied it with a crazy-ass Caleb Williams running backwards 40 yards, chucking it up there, Jordan Love style.
I'm happy you said it because I was about to give some shit.
Oh, yeah. It reminded me very much of a Jordan Love style pass. But it's astonishing when it's not your guy because you feel like only your guy can do that. But then you see others do that, and you're like, damn, that is pretty good. And he did pretty good. Caleb Williams proved a lot to me this postseason. And hats off to the Bears and their postseason run. They did everything they could to win this game. Although Caleb Williams did have 3 interceptions, and that was kind of the killer because he can be known to turn the ball over, especially consistently once it happens. He seems to really let it snowball on him, and when that happens, you can really counter that and take advantage. And because of that, they were able to take advantage of those turnovers, and that was the key in overtime because Caleb Williams threw an interception, and that was the last time the Bears had the ball because then the Rams went and they kicked the field goal for the win. But that was another nice game by Matthew Stafford and a nice game by the running game. And also Puka Nacua, where Devontae Adams did not have as big of a game as I thought he was gonna, but he did have a couple of crucial catches when they were needed. So he was there when they needed him, and that was about it for him. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of offense besides that crazy play from Caleb Williams. A couple of nice touchdown drives by the Bears, but they almost did it again. And how many times can you go in down 2 minutes and come out with a win? The Bears did it, I want to say 7 times this season.
I think maybe even 8 if you
count the Packers 8 with the playoffs. Yeah, 7 or 8 times. And they almost did it in 9th, but Caleb Williams, as I said earlier about Josh Allen, he just shot themselves in the foot too many times. and it just didn't allow for the Bears to win this one.
The clock almost always strikes midnight on Cinderella stories. It's so rare that these kind of crazy, out of the ordinary stat lines like that actually go on to win a Super Bowl. But yeah, I mean, Callan hit about every point I was going to make right there perfectly. Caleb Williams really has a chance to be one of the top, most elite premier quarterbacks in the league. But you got to cut out those mistakes. And more than anything, you got to cut out those back-breaking, game-losing mistakes, which that overtime pick was. Because overall, not only was it an interception, it was a bad interception. It was a bad throw. Maybe some weather was kind of affecting it, but I don't know because it didn't really look like it was affecting him most of the game. A little bit of snow in this one, but a lot of cold there in Chicago. So maybe that kind of slowed down these offenses. But yeah, huge kudos to the Bears. If Caleb Williams cuts out some of those big mistakes, he has one of the better games of a young quarterback's career, possibly ever in the playoffs, and they probably win this game without those 3 interceptions, maybe even without that one crucial interception at the end of the game. But nonetheless, huge props to the Rams on this one. They just are such a good team, and just like they did in 2021 when they made that Super Bowl winning run, they're just getting hot at the right time. Throughout the season, they were very up and down. They had games where they looked really good, but then they had huge question mark games when they got blown out by the Falcons, when they lost a close game to the Panthers. But they have just erased those question marks so far in this postseason and looked so good. Now they go on to what has easily been their hardest challenge going into Seattle next week. But as for right now, with the way Matthew Stafford is clicking and looking so good, with the way Puka Nacua is just continuing to dominate, the way Devontae Adams is making these crucial catches, because you said exactly what I was going to say there. Though Devontae Adams didn't have this huge earth-shattering impact stat-wise, the timing of the huge plays he made was just impeccable. It's not getting any better.
Yep.
And that's what you're looking for from veteran guys like him. And
he's clutch.
He absolutely stepped up into that role. Matthew Stafford continues to just absolutely roll defenses as well. The Rams are a good team. That's all you can say right now is the Rams are a hell of a team.
You know, I wonder how long until they change the overtime rules again to touchdowns only. Because I feel like just winning, going on there, both overtime games ended. I mean, yeah, both teams had possessions. Both teams had chances to score. That's great. I think that playoff overtime should be decided by touchdowns, not field goals in the overtime. Game-winning field goals at the end of fourth quarter, yeah, sure. I'm not going to take that out of the game, but
I do like that. Maybe regular season, keep it how it is now.
Yeah.
But then postseason, because like regular season, it can end in a tie, so it makes a little more sense to try to get the field goal to not have a tie.
Right, that makes sense.
But yeah, postseason when it's not going to end in a tie regardless, I actually do like
touchdown,
that. Force the
touchdown for the win.
That'd be intriguing. I'd like to see something like that.
But
nonetheless, luckily for the Rams and the Broncos, that's not a rule right now.
Not yet.
They both get a huge divisional round win by overtime field goals. So that was our NFL Divisional Round 2026 playoff reaction episode. Make sure to stay tuned in until next episode when we have our championship game predictions. But until then, don't forget
to eat the W.